Hey guys, welcome to the Titanium Vault. I'm your host, RJ Bates III, and today I'm sitting down with Mr. Michael McDonald. How you doing, man?
Dude, it is a pleasure to be here. I appreciate you for having me on, RJ. This is awesome.
Absolutely, man. So I got to tell the story. I got to tell the story how we met. We met during the original 50 deals, 50 states, 50 states challenge, right?
That's
I
right.
got a deal in Nebraska, and I needed help dispoing it because I had never done a deal in Nebraska before. And insert Mr. McDonald with what at the time was Rocket Home Buyers, now Launch Home Buyers. But we reached out to you. You guys got that deal dispoed for us, and we've been friends ever since. We've done a couple of deals since then, but appreciate you coming on here, man, and helping us out with that deal back in 2020.
Of course, man. I'm glad you found me because none other than me for Nebraska. I mean, there's some players in Nebraska. I know
Yeah,
you had Megan on your podcast, so
yeah.
the Airhorns are legit. But yeah, dude, you've done more deals in Nebraska since then, right?
Oh yeah. We've done more deals, but at the time it was like, dude, we didn't have things like Investor Lift or anything like that. That was like our launch into being nationwide, and it was figuring things out. Which I want to talk to you about the changes in the Nebraska wholesaling laws. We'll get into that later, but
For sure. Yeah,
for
it's
the
different.
people, yeah, for the people that don't know, you talk about what it is that you do in real estate and how long you've been doing it.
For sure, man. So I started in real estate about 5 years ago, 2018, and I went to one of those workshops that were free, where they show you how to make money in real estate with little to no money down. And at the time, I was working at a hospital as a nutritionist, and I was making a whole like $30,000 a year after graduating college. And I'm like, this isn't gonna cut it, right? And so, long story short, I went to their 3-day event, paid 2 grand, put it on credit cards. Didn't even have a couple grand of savings at the time. And looking back, it's just like, what in the world was I thinking? Then I spent another 20 grand after they helped me raise seed capital on credit, and that was my start to the journey. And at that time, I was in Nebraska, and I started learning how to find properties and wholesale. And uh, 6 months in, they called me back and said, "Hey, how's it going?" I said, "Not good, struggling." And they said, "Okay, well, how about another 25 grand?" I'm like, "Sign it up. Let's go. I think I have $70,000 of credit. Let's keep racking it up." So I did that. And I was 45 grand on credit cards in education, not marketing spend, before I even got my first deal. And talk about motivation. Talk
Yep.
about back against the wall, man. I was motivated, and 7 months in, I finally got that first deal. I think it was just that last stroke of the $25,000 on credit.
It's crazy. So similar beginnings for us. I was 65 grand, same thing. I mean, and the thing for me is I put that 65 grand on my mom's credit card.
Oh,
My mom put it on her credit card on my behalf. So yeah, motivation, right? I mean, that's a huge part of our beginnings. Talk about that. You get your first deal, 7 months, you're 45,000 in credit card debt. Is this like a light bulb moment where hey, this is what I'm going to do? Or are you still pretty much like, I can't believe it's real? Thank God I finally made some money, and just did it kind of take off from there, or what happened from that moment?
yeah, it was surreal, man. I think anybody who's cashed a check bigger than even $5,000 in real estate, it changes their belief.
Right.
I have a video my wife took of me walking out of the bank with a $23,000 check with the biggest smile on my face. And she just like, you're never going to work a job again. Like after you cash that check. And it wasn't that first deal where I quit my job. It was several months later in proof of concept. I'm like, okay, I can do it once, I can do it again. And so basically working a full-time job, I would just prospect, I would get leads, I would close them, I would knock doors, I would, drive for dollars. I was doing everything. And it was 7 or 8 deals before I finally had the courage, and my wife talked me into it, to quit my job.
when you were getting started, what was the hardest part for you? Like during those 7, 8 months, and even after that, when you were doing your 7 or 8 first deals before you quit the job, was it just finding people that wanted to sell? Was it you didn't know what to say? You didn't know how to run numbers? Like, what was the hardest part for you to get started?
Dude, it's so crazy to think back because it seems like a century ago, like
Right,
5 years ago. It seems like forever. I would say the hardest part was just like finding somebody who was the legit motivated seller, like not just, hey, make me an offer, but like I have a problem and I knew how to solve the problem. I just needed them to be reasonable,
right,
right? And so I was out there taking all the actions, and the one thing that I've been the least caught up on is underwriting a property. I did not spend too much time caring about all of the specifics. I'm like, okay, if Zestimate says this, and if I can get them at 50 or 60%, like it's a deal. Like
right.
somebody's gonna buy it, even if I make a $3,000 assignment fee, somebody's gonna buy it.
I love that, and we're going to talk about that. It's funny that you and I both similar starts, right? We put a ton of money on credit cards, and then the same thing. We come out of it, and it was like, I just need to know who to talk to. And now, fast forward, for you 5 years, for me almost a decade. It's we both teach, we both educate people, and I know that that is a huge part of both of our educations. Is here's how you do marketing. Here's how you find and I think that's why you see a lot of our students have success because at least they have the opportunity to go talk to people that need to sell their house,
It
right?
helps. Yeah, it
I mean,
definitely helps.
that's like a huge part that a lot of these big box education, they're just more about teaching you what wholesaling is, not actually how to wholesale, how to find those motivated sellers. So let's fast forward. You quit your job. Now you're going full time into this. When did it really become like a legit thing? Was it pretty quickly or did it take you a couple of years?
It took me. So here's kind of how this all went down. So I went to the event in February of 2018. I failed forward for 7 months. My first deal landed in, I think it was July. And from July until the end of the year, I completed 6 deals part time while working a job. And so leading up to me quitting my job, my wife was like, well, if you're going to be good at this, like you can't do this like for 2 hours a day, like you've been doing. Like she's like, you look like a zombie. You look like you're half like, I don't know. You're just like tired, right? I was
Right.
burned out. I had a newborn daughter who was born in October that same year. And what ended up happening is my wife said, let's sell our house and let's find a place to live temporarily. And then let's move to Vegas all simultaneously. So I just started having some traction and I quit my job. I sold my house. The day I sold my house is the day that I put my 2 weeks on my job. And then I moved to Las Vegas,
Wow.
um, all simultaneously, pretty much. I had a few month gap of staying there. We did a sublease, and I finally started getting traction when I realized that I had to spend a significant amount of money on marketing to get leads to come in. So like I was disciplined enough to know that, hey, I got to pay this credit card back before the 16 to 25% interest kicks in. So I paid that back first. And then I started paying myself just a little bit. I just started paying myself a little bit. I started putting money into marketing. And once I had continuously put money into marketing, big surprise, leads started showing up.
Right.
Leads started showing up. I had the confidence and the ability to trust the process to close the deal. And when I did it from Las Vegas in my bedroom in Omaha, that was like the biggest next mind shift. It was like, wow, I just bought a house from my bedroom all across the country and I just made $20,000 doing it.
Right.
What isn't possible at this point, right? Like that's crazy. And now we're starting to think, okay, cool, we're making some money. Um, how do we scale this thing, right? I know we're going to talk about this today a little bit, but that was a sexy thing to do. Is like, okay, cool, I got a virtual business and I'm going to scale my business. I'm going to replace myself. This is going to be awesome. And we started started building up, and we completed 40 deals that second year.
It's hilarious that your mind, I'm curious, was your mind to scale? Was it because that's what you told yourself you were supposed to do, or was it the impact of social media, other real estate investors saying that's what you're supposed to do that said, hey, the natural progression is I'm supposed to start scaling my business?
It's a good question, man. So, a couple things. It was definitely people around me influencing, who you watch on social media, or maybe the big dog in town has an office and they have 10 employees, right? And they're
Right.
making millions of dollars a month or something crazy. Um, but what they don't talk about is how much you spend to make $1 million or whatever you're making. And so it was a combination of that. And then my vision, like from day one, was okay, blow away the income that I was making in terms of replacement, but now I want to do it without me actually making the calls. So how can I have an acquisition manager fed enough leads to where they can go close those deals? So I'm not the one talking on the phone. So it was like slowly just like replacing each part of it, but definitely the industry had a huge impact on that decision to want to do that in the first place.
Looking back at it, was that a good decision, or would you do things differently?
So if you would have asked me that probably maybe a year ago, this would be a completely different answer. I would say I don't regret the decision. What I what I wish I would have done though is progress a little bit more uh, slowly and not tried to go so fast. Because after closing 93 deals last year, I realized that it's not about how many deals you close, it's about how many dollars you take home to your family. And
Yeah.
so I don't care about making top line $5 million. What I care about is taking home a lot of money to my family while at the same time maintaining a good relationship with my wife, a healthy relationship with my kids, and seeing them. And so there's a lot of factors that go into it. But yeah, man, this last year, like I was telling you before this, it's been challenging. We've had to fire some people, we've had people leave, it's just there's gonna be challenges with any business. And I'm questioning. I'm still learning, right? I'm still trying to figure out, man, is this for me? Do I want to continue on this path of having this big business, big in my eyes, right? Like I'm
Right.
not a corporation, but like 10 employees is bigger than 2 or 3 people. So
Let me ask you this. Do you have more issues with the 10 employees and managing the personalities and everything that comes along with that, or with managing, acquiring, and closing and making sure 93 real estate transactions fund across the country? Because I think you guys have done deals in 15 different states, right? What
yep.
is the bigger challenge? Is it real estate or is it personnel?
Depends on the day.
Right?
It depends on the week, right? If we're trying to disposition in small towns, it's definitely the transaction. Um, However, if you have people who they have the resources, they have the knowledge, they can get it done. It's not the people in that case. However, that's not always the case though. So um, I would say the biggest part is just like leveling up as a leader. Like I focus a lot on becoming a better Michael, becoming a better person and leader for my team. And there's still challenges with the people. I mean, at the end of the day, people can get comfortable, including me. Like
Yeah.
I got comfortable last year, and I kind of had a bit of a wake up call this last year.
I mean, dude, when you're doing, anywhere, I would say anywhere north really of 50 deals a year, there's such a significant amount of cash flow coming into your business that there's somewhat of a moment, especially guys like you and I that came from humble beginnings. I mean,
Right.
where our previous jobs we were making 30,000 a year. Now we're closing a single transaction for 30,000. We're talking about we're doing 100 of those a year. I mean, it's like there is that natural human element where we relax. We relax on our standards with humans in our office, right? Um, and to continue to pull the trigger on marketing to grow, right? So you talked about marketing. I want to talk about that for a little bit because you said that, you know, as you started putting more dollars and cents into marketing, more leads started coming up and then more deals, right? So what have you done marketing wise from the beginning to where you are today? How much has that changed? Because in those 5 years, I just know from my experience, there have been so many trends in marketing over the course of those 5 years. So what were you guys doing back then and what are you guys doing now?
Good question. So this changes a lot. So one thing that I'm just going to say as a caveat for this business is like what I'm seeking as I continue to mature as an investor and build an organization is just simplicity, just simple. I think so many people look for the fancy everything and the next marketing channel. Like you guys have all heard this: simple scales, fancy fails, right? So I just wanted to lead off with that because like that's like my thing going forward is like okay, uh, onboard all these people. We've got 8 different gadgets for every different thing, and it's just craziness. So just simplify. Marketing wise, there's been a couple changes. Um, in the beginning, I would say for a lot of people, it's like guerrilla marketing. You're hitting the ground running. You're on the streets. You're knocking doors. You're putting out signs. Like I was doing bandit signs. I was doing door knocks. I was doing cold call. I was doing all the texting. I was doing everything, but it was all me. And if I took a day off, like everything stopped.
Right.
So the biggest change from in the early days to now is we, rather than put ourselves in that shoes of doing all those things, we have virtual assistants, but we also do a majority inbound. So like we're not doing hardly any outbound marketing. It's very, very little. And what I mean by that is direct mail. That was a staple from the beginning, and it's still effective to a niche list. I've done the whole spray and pray thing, and I hold my breath every time I spend $30,000 on a marketing campaign. Um, we do TV, we do pay-per-click, Google Ads. That's amazing. That always brings in highly motivated sellers. We pay per lead. Checking out Lead Zolo. Shout out to you for your link there. But yeah, man, those are the couple of things that we're doing now. But it's all inbound. Like we're in business. Sellers call us.
I love that. And I have to say, you're one of the very few people I have had come on talk about doing TV. And I see this becoming more and more of a trend. So talk about that. Is that expensive? And are you liking the results that you're getting from TV?
Yeah, so it's one of those channels where if you don't plan to be in a market for a very long time, I don't think it's going to make as much sense. Um, if you're like kind of trying to go open up a virtual wholesaling market and just like do a quick run and make some money and then get out, I don't think it makes as much sense. And the reason I say that is number one, it's not crazy expensive. Like you can get on TV for like 5 or 6 grand. Like it's not that bad. Obviously, bigger market, a little bit more expensive. As far as from an ROI perspective, what it does is it creates a massive amount of credibility for you and your brand. And then from an ROI perspective, it's nothing like the hard part is tracking it down to like the penny. So for example, we just had a lead come in today that showed up on our website. Our acquisition manager asked them how they heard about us, and they said TV, right? So unless every time that happens, they're making a shift, it's not gonna get credit for it. So like the way I look at it is 3x. If I can maintain like even a little less, like this sounds crazy, but like 3x justifies me doing TV.
It makes
So I
sense.
spend 10,000, I make 30, I'm good.
Right. It makes sense though that it's really hard for you to nail that down because case in point, we all buy things from radio and TV where we just hear things over and over and over again. We just don't think about it in reality. It's like once the need comes up, it's like, I remember that jingle. And then you go search it on Google, and then you go on the website, and then you buy it. So that's a very like common thing. I was just curious. It's interesting. You said like 5 to 6 grand to get on, depending upon your market. It makes complete sense. But is that including like making the commercial and the ad spend and everything, or is there an extra expense for actually having to make the commercial itself?
Yeah, so that's a good question. You could probably do it pretty efficiently if you wanted to take the time to do it yourself. We were connected with a guy who's actually in the family, Tony Javier. He helps people get on TV.
Going to be a guest in just a couple of weeks.
All
So
right, there
yeah,
it is.
yeah.
You're welcome, Tony.
All right.
Yeah, so he got us on TV, and it's been great for helping. I mean, here's the thing: if it were just a matter of comparing apples to apples with PPC and TV, I don't know if TV would be as exciting. However, because of the authority and like we buy houses too. You talking about money moving around. I'm like trying to find $1 million right now. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. There's a lot of money moving around. And so raising money, like I just talked to a guy who's like, hey man, like how do you raise money for your deals? And I'm like, talk about them. Like post on social media, talk about what you're doing. And like obviously that TV gives you a little bit of an extra you know, whatever you want to call it,
Right.
in your
Right.
step.
Yeah, I love that. Well, speaking of that, I have to talk about what just happened since we met in the first 50-50-50. I have to talk about what happened just recently in the 2023 version of the 50-50-50. I'm on the phone with a seller in Nebraska, and the seller says, I've already gotten an offer for whatever dollar amount. And I asked, who made you that offer? And he says, Rocket Home Buyers. And I immediately just stopped. Credibility is important in business with both your competitors and your customers. So in this case, a motivated seller would be our quote unquote customer. I just told him, you should go with them. You should just go with Rocket Home Buyers. I know them. That's the credibility that you built with me. And it was also kind of like a sign of respect to you guys, where it was like, hey, these are my dudes. Like,
Right.
we've done deals before. I have plenty of leads. And I joke, I have this video that I play for the Crucible. There's a scene in the movie There Will Be Blood. Okay. And he looks at him and he says, I took my straw and I stuck it in your milkshake and I drank your milkshake. And he's talking about where he literally went from his land underneath and took the oil from his land, and he didn't know he was stealing his oil. And that's how I view virtual wholesaling, where it's like, dude, I'm going to come into Nebraska and I'm going to take a sip out of your milkshake and I'm going to steal a deal. But in
Yep.
this case, it's like, bro, that's not the deal that I need to get. Like, that's the credibility that you have built with me. And I think there's a lot to be said about the brand that you guys have built. So I want to ask you, with the years of you building Rocket Home Buyers, why did you make the decision to change to launch Home Buyers?
Good stuff. Well, first and foremost, man, I have a lot of respect for you saying that and making that video, because that's that's the energy that I'm putting out. That's the energy that I want everybody to feel. If anybody ever comes in contact with with me or the company, and I would have the same type of respect back. I can still hear Brad's voice today. Anyway, it was a very recognizable voice. But
Love
the
it.
the name, yeah, it takes a lot to build a brand, to get reviews, to rank on SEO. Like we've spent, I don't know, like a lot of money on SEO. We were spending $5,000 a month at one point in time, and then one day there was a big bad company called, well, I'm not going to say it's a bad thing or anything, but Rocket Homes, for those who maybe have heard of them, they're kind of a big deal. I heard, essentially had heard that we were doing business in the same realm of business, buying houses,
Ah,
mortgages, and we actually received a stop doing business as this. It was a very pleasant like request. It wasn't anything harmful or anything like that. It was just, this is a conflict of interest. And what was ironic about this, man, is we just got back from the family mastermind, and we had started, for no reason at all, started wondering, well, maybe we should trademark our business. Like we're doing pretty well. Maybe we should like protect this.
right.
And I don't know if it triggered something in the algorithm of the trademark world, because no more than a week later we got the letter, and
Crazy.
it was just like a just a stab, like, oh, that really sucks.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do? Like we've spent the last 3 years building this brand.
Dude, I can't imagine what that would feel like. Like if someone came to me and said, you can't be Titanium Investments, first of all, I would be like, what am I going to wear? Like all I have is titanium shirts and titanium hats. I mean, where's my wardrobe going to be? But I mean, that sucks. The thing that I love about it is that you didn't do some crazy overhaul though. Like there wasn't like a change in the logo really. You know, you very much kept it branded and just said we're now launch home buyers. How's that been like with has there been any noticeable change in your business since making that change?
Honestly, surprisingly, no. Like, I don't think we skip much of a beat. I think internally we can be our own worst enemies and
Yep.
like, oh my gosh, like what are people gonna think? But like we just didn't make a big deal about it. We're just like, we don't want to have to rebrand all of our logos. So let's just change the one word at the bottom that happens to be the same amount of letters, launch, as Rocket, and see what we can do there. And we registered the name, and we changed the names of our website, the names of our Google page with all the reviews and everything else, and we just like we just shifted and then just plugged back in, kept going.
So I'm going to share my screen here for a second. So if you're watching on YouTube, you get to see this. If you're listening, we'll describe it for you. I have a question. I have no idea. And so this question could just be like the most epic fall flat question of all time in my podcast. But I think it's there for a reason. I want to know the reason why you guys have the cross at the top of the rocket here, because I'm big on logos. I have like 55 different logos because I have a different logo for every state, and I made each one of those logos with a graphic designer where they're there. Everything is there for a reason and it means something. And I saw this today and I was like, man, first of all, I think this is a really cool logo.
Thank you.
For so many different reasons, but I have to ask, what is the reason why you guys put the cross there at the top?
Yeah, well, obviously the cross has a meaning in my life, and I'm a believer, and faith is first for me, and so that's why the cross is there. Because one thing that basically my partner and I, my business partner and I, made an agreement to in the very early days, and which is why we knew we were going to be fine in business regardless of what happened, even if it's Rocket Homes sending us a cease and desist letter, was that, hey, let's remember to always keep this priority, and let's make a pact to each other that we're not ever going to be greedy. We're never going to try to go behind somebody's back or slight somebody. We're always going to take the high road. And like, if we forget of that cross at the top of our company and what that means to us, like it's really easy to make bad decisions. Like we could be extremely filthy in this business. And sadly, there are some people out there like that. So we just wanted to remind ourselves that we're never going to do that.
I think that's really cool that you guys decided to put your faith right there on your logo, on your branding. I mean, it's first and foremost. I mean, you see it, and as a believer, and you're a believer, I think it's always important for us to remember that because, like you said, man, this industry, all industries, I mean, business in general, can bring out the worst in people, and I saw that today, and as a person who has built a brand and enjoyed the process of what that means and the decisions that go into making things like a logo. Um, that's really cool that you guys did that. So shout out to you guys for doing that. That's really awesome.
Appreciate
And
that.
then I want to transition from, hey, that's an important part of who you are as a business owner to the importance of your family, your wife and your kids, and what it's been like, being in Vegas while doing a lot of your business in Nebraska. And you said it's so important that you make sure that you keep a great relationship with your wife and spend time with your kids. What are the things that you do to make sure that you do that? Because it's easy for us as entrepreneurs to talk about it,
Yeah.
but what are you doing to do that?
Such a great question. And yeah, for anybody who's watching this, like making money is extremely important and it's critical. You have to do it. But I heard something on a podcast yesterday where it was a consultant talking to a business owner, and he was like, how's your family? Like, the very first question, he's like, how's your family? And how's your marriage? And the guy just like froze. Like it wasn't good, right?
Right.
And so um I just wanted to share that because he's like, okay, well, we can't even work together until you fix that. Because if you are a good husband, a good father, like your business is going to thrive regardless. And so, although has it been perfect? Of course not. Like it's there's challenges to find that balance, especially when you spend a sizable amount of money on marketing. You're like, oh, another Google lead came in. Let me just drop my dinner plate real quick and go pick up that phone call.
Right.
And so I made a decision to focus on becoming better about it, right? I'm not going to sit here and say I'm perfect, but one of those decisions was, okay, first and foremost, I got to get my office at home out of my house. So as much as I want to have the lifestyle laptop, business and close deals from my house and do business from my house, I finally got myself an office. So that was big. And I'm not saying you need to go get an office to like improve your relationship with your wife and kids. It just made sense for me because my wife would worry about keeping the kids quiet. I have a 2 and a 4-year-old, and they like to have fun. And so if I'm in here on a meeting and I'm trying to do a call and like I hear screaming, like there's some tension there. Like
Right.
it's unnecessary. Like I get mad and then she feels bad, but it's like out of both of our control. And so that was the first big thing. But then also, I have 2 phones now, and I'll tell you what, it's funny. My business phone somehow like finds its way in my pocket in the evening when it's not supposed to be in my pocket. So I'm just being honest with you guys, right? But it's it's all about your intention. So as long as you can have what is it called boundaries
Yeah.
and have these guide rails to help set you up for success, whether it be personal or business, you're going to improve that.
Dude, thank you so much for finally being an entrepreneur that says it meant so much to me to get an office outside of my house. Because so often it's like, yeah, man, I work from home and that's what I want to do. And I'm like, dude, I got a 10 and a 6-year-old. It ain't gonna happen. Like, it just isn't going to happen. I mean, they cannot comprehend that if I'm there, I need to work for 8 hours. Like, that's just not going to happen. And for me, and where I like my personality, I want to work. Like, I enjoy working. It
Yep.
fuels me.
Yep.
To then go home and be all in there with them. But I can't be all in with them if I'm trying to be all in on 8 hours of work. And so I appreciate the fact that you brought that up where it's like, hey, I needed to do this for me and for them. So I could go make money and be all in on what I'm doing, because there's a narrative out there where it's like, hey, man, you should have this, little 12 by 12 room in your house where that's where you go and you magically make $5 million a year. Yeah. It's like, that's not going to happen. So appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, dude, for sure. And I did make 93 deals from my home office in my 12 by 12 room. So like there's absolutely no excuse about it. But on the flip side of that, there became some tension. Like there became some issues and they needed to be addressed. And so like I went through a transformation earlier this year to start to care more about my relationship with myself, with my wife, with my kids, just being very intentional. Because I don't want to be the guy who makes millions of dollars and then blows it or loses his health, or like nothing else matters. Like, why did we start this business in the first place?
So let's talk about that. This whole journey over the past 5 years, there was this decision to move from Nebraska to Vegas. And I don't think I could personally think of two polar opposite places than Vegas and Nebraska. I mean, Nebraska is like this, it's the cornfields, right?
Yeah.
And Vegas, it's like Sin City. Why the decision to go to Vegas, and is it what you hoped it would be?
It's a good question. I had no clue what I was getting myself into when I moved out here. My wife, her sister lived here, and she had her visit on her 21st birthday. And I think that was 2 years before we decided. I was like, maybe it wasn't even quite 2 years. But anyway, I don't even know if it was 21st, because we moved out here when I was 24. Anyway, long story short, it was because her sister talked her into doing it. And no other reason. Wanted the kids to grow up with her kids, and now we live like 2 minutes from them in the same community.
Love it.
It's totally different than I expected, though, because we live in like a suburb and we live in a community, and it feels like we start to see people and like recognize people and like that we know, and it's different, man. So I grew up in a small town, so like I like that community, that little feel to it. Like, hey, Joe, like I'll wave at you, even if you don't wave back, I'm gonna wave at you. And there's pools, there's hiking, there's the best restaurants in the world. Like, I love it here, man. I don't think I'll ever leave, honestly.
So your education platform, it's called the Virtual Millionaire, right?
Yep. The Virtual Millionaires with an S.
There you go.
Yep.
So why did you start that? Because that can be potentially broken focus on what you're doing with your real estate business. There has to be a reason why you decide to do that, because obviously you're killing it in real estate. It's probably not money motivated. So what's the reason why you started that?
It's a great question. And it's one of those things to where after you start to have some success, you have people who are coming to you, and like it was basically just solving a problem of needing to help one to many, because I couldn't keep taking one-off phone calls. And so that inevitably turned into a group coaching. But also I just realized that there was a need for um, doing this at a high level, like building this out at a high level. And dude, I'm still trying to figure this out. Like I'm not ever gonna claim that I've got this figured out, right? And so I know I don't want anybody to watch this and be like, oh man, he thinks he's pretty good, right? No, I'm learning a lot of lessons. But what's cool about that is, and then I know you've experienced this with titanium, is you can start to do deals with these your
Oh yeah.
community. Um, and so I've got deals going on with the community, and like I love, like, one of my favorite things to do is do deals with like friends. Like I consider them friends. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, uh, but big picture wise, it's impact. Like why would I want to keep? It sounds weird, right? But like why would I want to keep um, doing like what I did to myself?
Right.
Why shouldn't anybody else be able to tap into that? And that's a rewarding thing when you can see somebody have no clue how to do a deal go to building a team and doing multiple deals a month.
I mean, for me, there was also the aspect of, dude, I put $65,000 on my mom's credit card.
Yeah. That's a
And,
big part of it for me. Yeah.
and dude, well, I'm just going to be honest with you. I've said this a lot recently. I don't know why this topic keeps coming up, but um, they essentially taught me how to get deals off the MLS, and to dispo it, you put it on Craigslist. That's basically what I got for $65,000. There was no
Right.
mention of direct to seller marketing. Like that wasn't a thing. It was just you got deals off the MLS. So to be able to teach people how to do this for a couple of $1,000 in comparison to 65,000, that's so it gives me energy.
Yeah.
And I saw one of your posts recently where you talked about, hey, I'm trying to avoid things that drain my energy, and I'm trying to do things that give me energy. Okay. Now, I love the post and I love the message, but I want to ask you, as an entrepreneur, as someone that maybe is in the position of where they just done their eighth or ninth or 10th deal, and they're like, that sounds great, guys, but there is nobody else. How did those people handle the fact that they have to go do all of the energy draining things because there is nobody else to do it? How did those people that read our post now and they say, man, yeah, that sounds great, Michael, but I got to still do the energy draining things? What do you say to those people?
Such a good question, man. Yeah, for those who are wondering what he's talking about, I made a post because I had to, as part of a business owner, like you got to let people go sometimes, and I had to make a couple of hard decisions lately. And the thing is, I would have never been in a position to even make those decisions had I not put in the work up front and learned these things, so I could have basically take that knowledge and show somebody else how to do that to where I could replace myself. So even today, if I have to get in and disposition a property, if I have to get in and make a phone call to a seller, I'm not ever going to be too good for that. And so I think it's important to sharpen that axe in the beginning, work on those skill sets, put in the reps, and never ever be too good to do anything in your own business.
Facts. Hey, same thing over here, man. And for me, for the people that maybe look at that message and say, well, that sounds great, I can't do it. For me, it's about, this should be a moment of motivation for you to start, becoming the expert in whatever that energy draining task is. Document the process so you're creating some sort of standard operating procedure so you can eventually outsource that to an employee, a VA, whatever it is, depending on the task, so you don't have to do it. Because otherwise, you're just going to be miserable forever. And eventually, you're going to make mistakes that you and I have made, which is hire people. And maybe we weren't ready to hire people for those positions because we just hired them because we didn't want to do it.
Yep.
And then we have to let go of them. That's my opinion about that. And I appreciate you sharing that message, man. I love it. Really appreciate just your message as a business owner altogether. The fact that you're open about your success and your failures, the fact that you're very open about being a family man, your faith. There's just from my perspective, there's a lot that people can look to you as a business owner and respect and try to duplicate. So I just wanted to say that to you because I think as business owners, like business owner to business owner, we don't give each other that kind of compliment enough. And I wanted to just say that to you because I have a ton of respect for who you are as a business owner, man.
I appreciate that, man. And I've really enjoyed watching some of your 50-day challenge. I've really enjoyed popping in and having fun in the chats on other people's shows. It's like, here's the thing, guys. This business, it can be very serious and it can be very tiring sometimes, but like, you gotta still have fun with it, right? Like, and so much respect for what you're doing. But at the end of the day, man, it's all about having a little bit of fun and making money with friends.
Absolutely. For the people that are listening, how can they find out more about the Virtual Millionaires, and where's the best place for them to follow you?
Absolutely. So yeah, thevirtualmillionaires.com. You can grab some scripts, some contracts, whatever you want there for free. And you can follow me on Instagram at Michael McDonald REI. And if you want to, I don't know if I can compete with this podcast, but if you want to have a different podcast to listen to, you can check out the Virtual Millionaire Show on all your podcast platforms.
There you go. Well, I think I'm going to be a guest on that pretty soon, aren't I?
Yeah, it's time for you to be on the show.
I think so. I think I'm going to be a guest on that pretty soon. But Michael, man, I appreciate you taking the time to hop on here. Looking forward to hanging out with you in a couple weeks.
That's
Family
right.
Mastermind. And like I always say, guys, we only accept 5-star reviews around here. Listen, man, we've had some banger episodes recently. And so I'm going to need to see some more 5-star reviews. Okay. That's all I'm going to say. Leave us a 5-star review. Michael, appreciate you, man. We'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks, RJ. We'll talk to you later.